everyone, it's Katie from Paradise Falls family. In this mini-series, I'm covering our trip to the Netherlands and Belgium in February 2024. We spent a brilliant week here with 2 nights in Amsterdam, 4 at Center Parcs in Belgium and finishing with a night at Efteling Theme Park. We wanted to do this trip for years, mainly to visit Efteling, but we also wanted to spend some time at Center Parcs too, so we ended up building a whole week away. In this video, we'll talk about our time in Efteling at the end of our trip. We stayed here for just 1 night with 2 days in the park, Friday to Saturday, and had a fantastic time. I'll give you an overview of the park, what we got up to, what we thought, with some tips along the way. Efteling is located in the Netherlands, around an hour from De Vossemere Center Parcs where we'd been staying, over the border in Belgium, so it was an easy drive over on the Friday morning. It's known as being one of Europe's top theme parks, and it's been on our list for years, with it being within driving distance of the UK. Efteling is fairy tale and fantasy themed and has a brilliant range of attractions for the whole family, with excellent theming throughout the park. I'd say it's primarily aimed at a younger audience, but it does have some thrill rides to appeal to everyone, so it's great for the whole family to enjoy together. We'd booked a package stay at the Loonsche Land Holiday Village on site, including 2 days in the theme park and breakfast for all 4 of us for €428. This also gave us free parking for our stay, both in the hotel and the park itself, so it felt like pretty good value. You also get early entry into the park for half an hour before it opens to other people staying off-site. I'll talk about the hotel a little more later on, but first I'll give an overview of the theme park itself. So having parked up at the theme park car park really easily, it was just a short walk to the front entrance, which is really quite impressive. And once inside this is where you'll find the main souvenir shop. They were carrying out some work while we were here, but it's still a great spot for photos and a nice way to enter the park. Once inside, you also then have the Efteling Theatre, which hosts the show Paror. This isn't on every night, so unfortunately we weren't able to see it this time, but it's described as a family show full of humour, music and acrobats. This comes at an extra charge of around €26 per person, or €12.50 if you're staying at the hotel and you book your seats in advance. Further into the park, you've got the lake, which is where the Aquanura Light and Water Show takes place each evening. We did catch this on our way out of the park and it was really impressive. Probably more so when it's dark and the lights have more impact, so it's probably worth waiting for a later showing. On the other side of the lake is the first ride, Fata Morganaplein, a nice family dark ride, and we made this our first ride of the day while it was quiet first thing in the morning. Past this point, the park then splits off into 6 different lands: Anderik, Ruigerik, Fantasyrik, Spookisbos, Rijtsenrik and Marriagerik. I'm going to stop and apologise at this point, as I reckon my Dutch pronunciation is probably absolutely shockingly bad. From what we could tell, most of these didn't have an obvious distinct theme to differentiate from each other, but all kept to the general fairy tale theme of the park. These lands are spread across the wonderfully landscaped and themed park, and it's a lovely theme park to wander around and take everything in. We were fortunate that it wasn't a particularly busy day, so we never had a problem with queues and managed to get just about everything that we wanted done. However, if you're here at a busier time of year, you might need a few days to take in everything the theme park has to offer. Starting at the lake, you can either go right to Anderik or left to Spookisbos. We elected to go right, so I'll start with Anderik. As well as Fata Morganaplein, which is also part of this land, you've got 2 other rides in this area, Max and Maritz and Piranha. Piranha is a river rapids ride and was shut at the time of year we were there, but it looks to be a great option to cool down in the summer. Max and Maritz is a family roller coaster with 2 tracks and you can pick which one you ride in the queue. This is a great starter coaster and we rode this around 5 times during the day, so make sure you don't miss this one and check it out. Making up the rest of this land are shops, fairground games at an extra charge, and stalls to pick up some really good snacks. There's also a show you can take in, and there are a few of these dotted around the park, as well as character meets, but with them being in a different language, we didn't stop for these this time. The only one we were tempted by was a picture with the Efteling mascot Paror, who is a magician and jester. You'll see his face dotted around the park, and we saw him meeting guests in Fantasy Rick later in the day. Moving on around the park to Ruigerig, this is where you'll find a couple of the bigger rides, including Baron 1898 and Python, both of which are massive roller coasters. Too big for us to try this time, with our kids both still being primary school age. Then you've also got De Vierhande Hollander, which is a wooden water coaster, and Joris en de Draak, which is another wooden coaster. Both of these were shut when we visited, but both looked a lot of fun and something for older kids and adults alike. Elsewhere in the land, there are a couple of family-friendly rides like Halverman, which is your classic swinging pirate ship, and then some for really little ones, Kinderspoor, which is a pedal train, and Die Oud-Tufferbaan, which is a car ride. Finally, there's a kids play area called Nest, which is brilliant, and our two enjoyed a good chunk of time tearing around here. Again, you've got fairground stalls and games and shops, including a brilliant sweet shop called Deverlading that we made sure to stop in for a mid-morning treat. The last thing to mention here is the train station. Efteling has a little steam train that circles the park, much like the railroad at a Disney park. There are stations in two of the lands, this one and Mariagerich on the other side of the park. We decided to hop on and it took us around the park, which was a lovely ride, so we could check out Mariagerich. Along with Ruigerig, this is one of the bigger lands in the park. One of the most popular rides was Droomvlucht, or Dream Flight in English. Another family dark ride, and in our opinion, one of the best rides in all of the park. This was one of only a few times where we had to wait a little bit to queue to get on the ride. It was still only around 20 minutes, so not bad at all. The other main ride here is Villa Volta, the closest thing here to a haunted house at the moment, where you sit in a ballroom and it spins slowly around you, distorting your perspective. It's really similar to rides that we've done before at Alton Towers and Legoland. It's very family friendly, not at all scary, and a fun stop to make. Between these two there is Ravelijn Park Show. This is a live show with stunt horse riders, and you can book dinner packages here as well. It looks really good, but again it was closed while we were here, so if you come out of season, be aware that a few things may be shut. The rest of the land is largely made up of smaller rides for younger kids, including a really good carousel, a monorail, some smaller fairground rides and a playground. There's also a really nice little museum about the history of Efteling and a diorama miniature world that you can wander around. In terms of food, there are a couple of stalls and kiosks here, but our favourite were the vending machines where you can pick up loads of different hot snacks. These are located right at the top of the land and are a fun little novelty thing to do that we hadn't really seen anywhere else before. From here we headed up to Rijtsenrijk, which is home to our favourite ride in the park, Vogelrok. Look for the giant bird in the top left corner of the park. This is an indoor roller coaster, faster than Max and Moritz but still not too wild. It's probably equivalent to Space Mountain at Walt Disney World. We all loved this ride, and the kids are now old enough to ride alone, so they went around and around on it again and again, as it strangely didn't have any queue at all. It was definitely our highlight of the day. Next to this is Efteling's answer to Small World, Carnival Festival. It's a very slow family ride where you travel around the world. Without the catchy song that It's a Small World has going for it, this one really wasn't for us, but little kids will probably love it. There are a couple of more rides here, Sirocco, which is a spinning teacups-like ride, Gondoletta, which is a boat ride around the lake here, and it looked lovely, but we couldn't persuade the kids to go on when it was really cold. Then finally there is Pagode, which takes you up way above the park, providing amazing views in all directions. It's nice and relaxing and a must do if you're here. In terms of eating, I don't remember there being a lot of options in this area of the park, but there was a really good toy shop next to Carnival Festival for the younger kids. The last land with any rides in is Fantasy Rick, located smack bang in the middle of the park. This only really has one ride, but it's one of the best in the park, Symbolica, located in the big castle and is the ride for the mascot Parors. This is one of the newer rides at the park and it's a trackless dark ride. All of the dialogue is in Dutch, so to be honest we didn't really understand what was going on with it, but it was really fun nevertheless, and the tech in the ride was absolutely brilliant. This was probably our longest queue of the day at just under half an hour, so this is one of the most popular rides in the park. We would probably liken it to the Ratatouille ride that Disney have. Outside in the square in front of the castle is where you'll often meet characters including Pardo's, and it's also where you can find the pancake house called Paul's Kirken. This is where we'd pre-booked for lunch and it was brilliant with so many amazing pancake choices, including gluten-free for Greg. The kids got a free gift and the theming and service were both top notch. The meal came to around €50, so not bad for a sit-down meal in a theme park, even if it was only pancakes. Elsewhere in the land there is also a 4D film called Fabula, which is on the way back down to the lake and the front of the park. We didn't have time for this, but it looked really fun. So that covers just about all of the rides in the park. The last land to mention is Spooky's Boss, which doesn't have any rides per se, but it's a fairy tale forest. You can walk the winding paths and enjoy all of the scenes from loads of different fairy tales, some of which have little animatronic shows, and there's even an open air theatre where they host live shows from time to time. We spent time exploring here and it was so much fun. We didn't quite see everything here, with there being so many different paths, so with more time we definitely head back to explore a little bit more. Before I move on from the theme park, just a word on food. I've already mentioned a few times that there were loads of places to pick up snacks and treats dotted around the park, and the pancake restaurant was a favourite of ours. We also had a sit-down meal at Hetwit Pard, which was kind of a canteen-style restaurant with loads of hot food options and seating, and a really nice easy spot to pick something up without a reservation. There are several other sit-down restaurants in the park, which you can check out on their website. The only thing I'd say is make sure to pre-book if you want somewhere in particular, as we did see people having to wait in quite a long queue at the Pancake House, for example. Hopefully this gives you a good guide to the Efteling theme park and what you can do and the main rides to focus on, etc. As I said, we visited in the off-season, so some things were closed, which definitely was a downside, but the queues were really short, which was a fantastic perk for us. We had a full day, opening to almost closing on the Friday and around half a day on the Saturday before we drove back to the UK, and we did everything that we wanted in that time. However, I can imagine if you were here in summer and wanted to ride some of the big rides, take in the Paror and Ravelin show, spend some time relaxing in the hotel, you could easily spend 3 to 4 days here if you wanted. It's a wonderful place to visit, and for us felt like a step up from theme parks in the UK in terms of the overall feel and theming, and being a holiday destination rather than just a day out. Moving on to the accommodation, Efteling offers 3 different options: the Efteling Hotel, Loonsche Land, both the holiday village and the hotel itself, and Bosrik. We selected the Loonsche Land Hotel as it was the cheapest on offer when we booked, and it looked like a really great place to stay for the night. We arrived after spending the day in the theme park and we were able to check in on the app and go straight to our room and use our phones as our virtual key, so it was incredibly easy. The hotel itself was really good, with a really nice open plan bottom floor with reception, a souvenir shop and the Die Prophetin restaurant. Upstairs, our room was fantastic. The kids even said it was one of the best we've ever stayed in. It came with room for 5 people. It had 3 singles and then 2 more above in a little alcove like bunk beds, which is where the kids slept and had a blast. The bathroom was small, but it was really nice with a standalone shower, and everywhere was really clean and comfortable, and we'd really recommend a stay here. They also have a signature smell in the bathroom toiletries range, and this was so good and can be bought in the gift shops in both the hotel and the park if you wanted more. We visited the restaurant for dinner that evening, and this was brilliant with loads of choice, great for vegetarians and any allergies, as well as having a really good kids menu. There was even a little play area to keep the kids entertained. The meal came to around €100 for the 4 of us, so not particularly cheap, but it was really good quality and well worth trying if you're staying here. We did make a reservation as it can book up in advance, so make sure to do this on the website beforehand. We visited the restaurant again the next morning for breakfast, which was included with the stay. This included your typical fruits, pastries and cooked breakfasts, and again it was really good, so don't miss this. Once again, make sure to book a table in advance. We booked our time slot for breakfast when we booked our stay with the hotel. In terms of the rest of the grounds, there's a nice big car park right outside, which is free, and we had no difficulty finding a space. Then more widely is the holiday village accommodation, surrounded by forests and fields making up the nature area, a playground and an animal enclosure. There are loads of activities for families, meaning it would be a lovely place to stay for a few more nights. The hotel is around a 15-minute walk from the theme park, but they also run a shuttle bus too, or of course you can drive yourselves if you want, and it only took us around 2 minutes when we did this, as we wanted to head straight off from the theme park later in the day. So after wanting to visit for many years, we finally enjoyed a fantastic stay at Efteling, and hopefully we've given you a decent overview of our stay and the park itself. We had a lovely time and are really glad that we visited. It was definitely the kids' best part of our week in Europe. If we go again, I think Easter or the UK May half term would be ideal. You'd get to see the Netherlands in full bloom in spring and with better weather, and I would hope that the rest of the rides and shows would be open at Efteling so you could enjoy everything. It's definitely on our radar to see if we can squeeze in another quick trip at some point. So that wraps up this mini-series covering our trip to the Netherlands and Belgium. Next week we'll be covering our recent trip to Disneyland Paris, so if you enjoyed this video please make sure to subscribe to the channel as it really does make a difference, and we've got loads more vlogs coming this year. If you've got any questions or any other tips, then please let us know in the comments below. Thank you all so much for watching.